All right, back by popular demand is Chase Hooper, who will be competing on the massive UFC 263 card this Saturday in Glendale, Arizona, taking on Steven Ocho Peterson. Chase, good to see you, my man. We finally made this happen. How are you?
Good. Just trying to get the weight down as much as I can before heading out, and yeah, just excited to be on such a stacked card.
Absolutely. And by the way, the craziness and the scheduling snafus are 1,000% on me. So I appreciate your flexibility, especially on fight week. You talk about getting the weight down. Are you like on track towards like a typical cut for fight week?
Yeah, more or less. I'm trying to work more with the PI and kind of see how it goes. I feel like I've been making my cuts harder than they need to be. So, I really just have been taking all the advice that I can from the Performance Institute and the dietitians and stuff with UFC. And yeah, it's been pretty good. I'm feeling better energy wise than I usually do. So yeah, we'll see how that kind of carries me through the week.
So you're back, as we mentioned, you're on this massive card and you get to fight in front of fans again. And it's been 6 months, since we've last seen you. How excited are you to just get back in that octagon again and make that walk in front of a bunch of people?
I don't know. For me, it's never really been like a huge thing with the crowds. Regardless of if there are people there or there aren't, when you're in the mix, like when you're fighting, it's just so intimate that it's like just you and the other guy, and you can kind of hear a little bit on the outside, but it's not, I don't know. The crowd energy for me hasn't been too much of an issue. Some people are a little like, I don't know, like a little shocked or like a little scared with the crowd, but I don't know. I always just think about it like it's the 15 minutes that I gotta, put in the work, and then after that I get to go back to normal life. So kind of regardless of how that has had to happen in the past, or how it's going to be happening this time, it's still just the same rules, the same out of me, and yeah, just trying to see if I can make the improvements and show that I belong to be here.
I've seen you have been a busy man since the win over Peter Barrett. We'll discuss the training part of it in a minute, but I noticed you took up a new activity in the snow. You're a snowboarder now. How did you enjoy your first season on the slopes?
It was a good time. I honestly really have never had any activities besides like playing video games and stuff outside of training. That always makes it hard for interviews where people are like, "Oh, what do you do outside of fighting?" And I'm like, I don't do that much. I just sit around and, binge eat pretty much. But, yeah, it's fun to have something to do that's not fighting related at all, but it's still, active, and it still, burns calories, all that. And it's a completely different type of, I'm not very well coordinated. So it's kind of a different, it's just a different sport altogether, and I'm having a good time with it.
So is it like this year, this past season, was that your first time ever snowboarding?
Yeah, I've been probably less than 10 times in the time that I've done it. But yeah, I always make sure to not post too much about it before I come home. In case I do get hurt, I'll be like, "Oh, I got hurt training, guys. I wasn't, trying to do some sick jumps or anything."
Do you do any sick jumps?
I've attempted a couple, some of the like little baby jumps, but sometimes you just like scorpion yourself. But yeah, it's a good time.
So why snowboarding over skiing? Just the cooler thing?
Yeah, I always thought it'd be cooler to tell people I got hurt snowboarding than skiing. But it's also I've heard it's easier to pick up, and then also the knee injuries are not as severe. I've had multiple training partners have, huge knee injuries from skiing, but not from snowboarding. So,
smart man. I also saw that you took another big step in your life. You're getting married. How about that? Congratulations on the engagement. How does it feel getting ready to be Mr. Chase Hooper?
I don't know. It's she's been living with me for a while. She's actually been with me since my first pro fight. So, you know, she's been with me since I was making, I think I made $500 and $500 for my first fight. You know, she's been living with me for 2.5 years out of the 3.5 we've been together. So, you know, we're kind of already in that type of life, but now we get the tax breaks associated with that. I get more of a benefit from that than she does. Yeah, it's going to be a good time. I feel like I'm usually pretty good about not making too poor of decisions. So, you know, this felt like a good decision to make, and yeah, going through with it.
Was the proposal like a simple one? Was it extravagant? Was there like a 20-piece ensemble playing in, like, or was it just the old school down on a knee, let's lock it up kind of thing?
Yeah, no, it was pretty basic, a little awkward. That's just kind of how I do everything though. But yeah, it worked out. She didn't really care too much about that part, you know, more than the overall kind of moving on to that next step. But, you know, yeah, it's going to be a fun little thing to look forward to, you know, once I get this week over with. But still got to focus on the business side of things.
Did you set a date yet?
Yeah, it's sometime in August, the 21st, I think.
This year?
Yeah.
Get it done. I was the same way. I got engaged 5 months later, it was done.
Yeah, I figure I'll spend the money while I have it, that type of thing.
There you go. In preparation for this fight, I saw that you took a trip to Simpsonville, South Carolina to Upstate Karate, and you worked with Wonder Boy and Ray Thompson. How did this all come together?
Yeah, so it kind of all came together from training with Ryan Hall initially. So Ryan Hall hit me up. I went out there and you know, trained with him for a week after my Caceres fight in, like, I want to say July or August. But, you know, he mentioned training with either Raymond Daniels or Wonder Boy. He said they're both great to work with. And then, you know, I kind of have always been needing to work on my stand-up more. And I just kind of figured it was the right time. You know, after the fight, I had some more money. I had, you know, the time that I could take off and dedicate to, you know, just training and working on the stand-up. But yeah, initially I was kind of looking at Thailand, trying to do some more traditional Muay Thai. But it just kind of didn't make sense. The country's still pretty locked down. And, you know, price-wise, it was so much cheaper to go, you know, like the flight to Thailand minus, you know, what I'd have to spend on staying somewhere, training somewhere, all that was, you know, just as expensive as my whole trip to South Carolina. So yeah, I went, trained with Wonder Boy, you know, super cool. His dad runs quite a bit of the striking stuff. But yeah, they have a great program down there, and they're super, like, detail oriented. They have a good way of explaining things. And it's always nice to, you know, kind of go to a different spot where you don't know anybody, nobody knows you really, and just kind of be, you know, one of the guys kind of back at the bottom of the totem pole a little bit and kind of just be in the mix grinding with the other guys. And yeah, it was a great time.
So Ryan Hall and Steven Thompson, it's a pretty lethal combination right there.
Yeah, hopefully I'm able to, you know, make use of I spent 3 weeks down in January, and then I spent another week, you know, probably 6 weeks out from this fight. So hopefully I'll be able to, you know, not embarrass them and show that I'm, you know, making the improvements that I need to and that I want to. And just kind of being more of a well-rounded fighter than I have been in the past.
Well, it's hard pressed to find better guys to get you ready for a fight as you get ready to face a 27-fight veteran in Steven Peterson. Comes from a great team at Fortis MMA. We haven't seen him for a while. It's been a little under 2 years since the spinning back fist highlight reel knockout. When you saw Ocho's name on the other side of the contract, how did you react to that one? How do you like this one stylistically?
I think it's a good fight because kind of the issue that I have had with the past couple of fights is fighting someone that is content with just kind of winning the rounds. versus trying to finish. All respect to my last couple opponents, but both Caceres and Barrett are, perfectly fine with, kind of point fighting and just winning the rounds and kind of grinding it out. But I function really well in the more chaotic fights. And I think that's kind of the beautiful thing about this one is that he says it all the time, is that he's kind of trying to chase the bonuses. He's trying to, like everybody else, trying to make that extra bit of money. But he's, a little more of a grinder, and he's more of a guy that will bring the fight. And I feel like that's, these are the type of fights that I need, because they're, they let me scramble a little more, rather than just kind of ending up with the like pitter patter type of, I don't know, you kind of get a lull in those type of fights, and then you just get into a momentum, and it's harder to break than when these guys come out here and they try to finish you, and you have to, match that pace. And it's, it makes it a better time, and it makes it better to watch. Just makes it better for everybody, really.
So do you feel like this will be more like the Tamer fight and less like the Caceres and Barrett fights in terms of like the action and the pacing of the fight?
Yeah, I think it really will be, because, the Tamer fight, he's trying to finish me the whole time. I was trying to finish him the whole time. And that's the type of fight that I perform the best in. I have in the past. A lot of my finishes are against guys that, want to fight, versus guys that are fine with the decisions. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. Just kind of see how well the new stuff is that I've been trying to implement will kind of mix into the old stuff. And, with the pressure of, an opponent like this, it's going to be a good time.
He does have some submission wins on his resume. He's even got an omoplata finish in his career. What do you think of Steven's grappling, his jiu-jitsu game heading into this fight?
Yeah, I feel like he's a pretty well-rounded fighter. I wouldn't say that he's quite an expert in any area, but he's just really well-rounded. Obviously he's a veteran guy. He's been in the mix for a while. He's had a ton of UFC fights. But that's kind of the thing, is that, I want a guy who thinks that he can hang with me on the ground. That's perfect. If he wants to grapple with me, I'll be just fine with that. And at the end of the day, really, like, if I'm grappling somebody and they're, out grappling me, I'm in for a rough night. But I don't see him necessarily as a more traditional jiu-jitsu guy. He's got some submission wins, but for the most part, anybody that's well-rounded, that has as many fights as he does, should have, a little bit of everything on their resume. But yeah, I obviously the thing is not to overestimate my abilities and underestimate his. But yeah, I think I'll have the edge in the grappling. Hopefully, that's kind of the thing, is if I go into these fights and I'm fighting a better grappler, I'm going to be in for a rough night.
You're young, you're evolving, long way away from your physical prime, and you can certainly make some leaps in 6 months' time, but you're going to implement a whole bunch of different things. You've gotten some different looks from different styles of fighters, some really good ones, Ryan Hall, Wonderboy Thompson, like you mentioned. How much better do you feel like your striking has gotten since the Peter Barrett fight?
I feel like the last fight, there was a lot of little fundamental things that were kind of wrong with my striking, which is what I initially went down to South Carolina, like telling them. I was like, hey, you tell me, like, throw these punches and I will do it. But I feel like there's something missing that's kind of, putting me out of position, or, not letting me realize the potential of my strikes. I'm not taking the most out of it. I'm not, using my body fully. And I feel like, for the first two weeks or so, probably, that I was down in South Carolina, we just worked basics and just kind of, fixed a lot of these little bad habits that I had that, made huge changes to, my ability to hit quick, defend quickly, be in position a little better. And I feel like that will hopefully help out quite a bit. But that's kind of the thing right now, is I still have so much time that it's trying to make the most of the time between the fights and really just, also while I don't have like a secondary job that I have to worry about, I have a lady here, but she's just fine, taking care of the house and the animals and all that on her own. So it's okay for me to be able to kind of drop everything for a couple of weeks and go train at these places. And it's really just trying to make the most of the time between the fights to, make the improvements that I need. And just kind of keep getting a little better every fight, because I still have so much time, like you were saying. And like I've kind of always said, is like my prime is still, my late 20s, and I'm just, I'm not even 22 yet. So it's kind of, obviously I still have to take these fights. I still got to make the money. I still got to pay my bills, all that. And prove that I deserve the amount of attention and, respect that I have been able to get in the UFC. But it's just kind of, putting the time in and trying to see these improvements between the fights. But I feel like it's going to be a lot different. I just understand a lot of the fundamentals of striking a lot better. And I'm hoping that when I'm tired, I'll still be going back to, the stuff that I worked on in South Carolina, rather than, old bad habits that, have been more detrimental than anything.
So ultimately, are you happy that it was a 6-month stretch between fights?
Yeah, it's also kind of with a weight cut too. I just need that amount of time for my body to get back to normal, because I'm still growing. I don't want to mess up my body too much. I think it was Paul Felder who just kind of put something out about people cutting too much weight and how it's, it's going to hurt you in the future, because then you're going to have to move up to a division you don't need to. But yeah, for me, it's kind of just taking the time to really soak up all the knowledge that I can and make the improvements between the fights, and then also let my body heal, get back to normal, eating normally, so that I'm not kind of in a deficit all the time, trying to make weight, every couple of months, rather than, taking a little bit of time, getting back to normal, and then cutting again. So yeah, it's just kind of overall, it's been a good time to kind of take that between the fights.
I know all weight cuts are tough, but is yours like particularly brutal?
I think it's just harder because I'm not maxed out, body wise. Like, I'm going to keep growing for a while. And essentially the past couple fights, it's been like a couple pounds added on between, each cut. So it's kind of trying to treat every fight as my potential last one at 45, just to kind of not lock myself in, because I'm still growing, and, my weight has been obviously going up quite a bit. But it'll just do it randomly, between the fights. My body is trying to still go through puberty and all that thing, so it's I'm trying to be smart about it and not do it until I have a horrible cut and I miss weight or something. But yeah, it's definitely a bit of a cut, but I'm really good at, discipline with the diet. And then, the water weight always sucks, but, like I said, for this one, I've been really working with the PI, and the weight's been coming off great. So, we'll see how it goes on Friday for weigh-ins.
I know we spoke after the win over Barrett, and, it was a crazy fight. You overcame some adversity, you got the submission, but we also discussed, how it sort of went over with the broadcast team, more specifically DC and Rogan, who will certainly be there this time around. And I'm sure you're not overly concerned about that part, because you're getting into a fight in a cage with another human being. But Is there like a small part of you that's looking to prove something to those guys this time around? The, hey, like, listen, I'm taking this seriously. I went out and I'm training with Wonder Boy and Ray Thompson. Like, I'm finding great strikers to work with. Do you play? Is there a part of you that wants to like surprise those guys a little bit on Saturday?
I think it's more, the commentators, I understand they're just trying to do their job. They're just trying to fill stuff, fill time and throw stuff out there. For me, it's more important to impress the matchmakers, the people that actually determine, my future, if I have a job, that type of thing. But it's always nice to be able to rewatch the fight and not have to be like, oh, that sucks to hear. But, at the end of the day, it's more important that I'm able to get my 2 checks. And, kind of have the win, have the momentum, and still have that, kind of positive outlook for the next couple months after. But yeah, I think the thing is still that I have so much time. But it's also not being content with just taking the win. It's just trying to, make the improvements. Obviously, I would love it if the commentators love this fight. And, we're saying I was doing everything perfect, but, you can't really have too big of an ego in this sport for too long because, at the end of the day, 50% of all the people that are fighting, aside from the no contest and draws, obviously, are going to lose. 50% of the people that step in there lose. So it's kind of just trying to be humble about it and not take too much into it. But, so many fighters say that they want to improve whatever aspects. But I feel like I'm actually, taking the steps to go out there and try and do it rather than just kind of saying it and then, fighting the same way every time. I'm really, buckling down and trying to fix this stuff that I need to work on and, become a more well-rounded fighter and, have a career here and, not have to have a real job for a while and be able to, support my family and all that.
So how do we impress the matchmakers, the guys they keep you employed and get you up the ranks? How does this all play out on Saturday? Do we have an official Chase Hooper prediction here?
I'm predicting definitely an exciting fight. I know he's kind of a grinder. He obviously is always trying to finish, but he can, he has the cardio to still go the 15 minutes. And the thing is, I do too. I've really strapped down and done a ton of cardio stuff for this camp, more than usual, just kind of so I'm going to be able to hopefully, keep a high pace for that 15 minutes regardless. With both guys looking to finish, it's going to be really hard for it to go that full 15 minutes, I think. But yeah, I'm hoping for a finish regardless. And then, after that, I'm going to go back and have some dinner and hopefully my jaw won't be too sore.
There you go. Did you watch the Mayweather Logan Paul fight last night?
I did not. I don't know what I was doing last night. I think I was building some Legos.
Better call. No doubt about that. I wasn't sure. I know Ben Askren, your guy, your PIC, so to speak, a couple months ago, didn't have a great night against Jake Paul. I don't think he really cares all that much because he made a lot of money and now he can build disc golf courses anywhere he wants at this point. But he took the loss extremely well, to nobody's surprise. He's very good at that. What did you think of that fight? Did you watch it? Did it surprise you at all?
Yeah, I watched the Ben Askren fight. It's one of those things where like it's hard to watch like a teammate or somebody that and somebody that you like and have met. It's hard to watch that happen. But he did get paid and he takes it really well. That type of stuff is always worse to watch for the people on the outside. Having been someone that's, been at these high levels and got beat up on TV, it's not that bad. I was fine after, just like he was, I'm sure. And the money obviously helps, but it's definitely hard to watch, somebody that you like genuinely as a person, to watch them get, dropped like that on TV. But yeah, I don't know. He never really has been a striker, so I don't think for him that he really put too much on the fight regardless of the result. And yeah, he made plenty of money off of it. So
yes, he did, and that's great for him. Last thing, UFC 263, ridiculous card, a lot of interesting matchups. 2 title fights are obviously very interesting. The flyweight title fight, I'm really circled in on. I'm so excited for that. Obviously, Nate Diaz coming back and fighting Leon. That's interesting. That's gotten a lot of buzz. Which fight outside of your own are you personally looking forward to the most on this card to watch afterwards?
Ooh, there's a ton of fights. I want to see a great one. Obviously, the whole card's stacked, but I want to see Bilal and Damian Maia. That's going to be a crazy fight. It's going to be kind of a, changing of the guard type of fight, I think. And I want to see Bilal, get the win after, getting that horrible injury from Leon Edwards. And then I also want to see Nate Diaz get back in there, see if he still has what it takes. It's going to be one of the things where it's going to be cool to just be in these guys' presence. The guys like Adesanya and the guys like Figueiredo, these like just super high level guys. And I get to, like walk past them in the hall, that type of thing. It's just going to be a cool experience overall. I feel like the energy in the arena that night is going to be crazy. I don't know how much I'll get to see after the fight, being that it looks like we're going to be quarantined and they're going to drive us back probably, I would assume after. I don't know. In the past, they have like a green room where you can go and watch the fights and eat and all that. But I think they're going to bring us back. But yeah, it's going to be a great card. And I'm honestly just happy with how the card's shaped up. And, the more people watching it, the more eyes on me. And, that's kind of the thing is that trying to get that out there. But it's a fantastic card and I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one, and obviously looking forward to your illustrious return, Chase, after 6 months away. Great catching up with you again. Sorry for all the chaos. That was my life this past week, but safe travels to Arizona, and all the best to you on Saturday, man.
Hey, I appreciate it.